Welcome to the Valorant First Strike Qualifiers. Myself and Dust will be bringing you both best of threes of today, and it will be a long journey for these teams taking part. But every journey, Dust, starts with a single step, and that's what we're here to cover today.
Oh, absolutely, man. And what's great about this is no one gets any freebies, Vince. There might be a couple of buys in the bracket due to seeding, but everyone has to participate in these open qualifiers and kickstart that process to qualifying for the first Riot Run event, which is First Strike, which is kind of what everyone's really been waiting for, to take that next step, to have that next level of prestige to an event that everyone gets to compete for. And this should be an absolute blast, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to bring it to the people out there, Vince.
Oh, I'm so excited for this, Dust. Like, we've been chomping at the bit to get involved in these games, and finally we are here. And we get to witness a little bit of history at the same time. 100 Thieves. They've been baiting this. They've been around the block a few times. It's a org that, let's be honest, we both know pretty damn well. We've casted them a lot in the past. But now we get to see them dip their toe into Valorant, and we get to see this five-man stack and what they really have to bring to the table.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool history of Valorant because of how many people are coming from different backgrounds to kind of form this community, whether it be Counter-Strike or Overwatch or even PUBG in some cases and other FPSs across the PC circuit. You've seen players come out from all sorts of communities to build this new foundation that we're seeing here in Valorant. And again, it all starts with these First Strike qualifiers, and we can kind of start taking a look at how things are going to work out here, Vince. I think we're going to kick things off by just taking a look at the schedule to kind of let people know what to expect over these next 5 days. We are in the open qualifier. We are starting in the round of 128. We're going to be doing 2 rounds apiece for the first couple of days. And then, as you can see, we'll have the last 3 days be the round of 8, the round of 4, and the grand finals. The times are going to be the same each day, as you see at that specific standard time. And also, there's going to be a lot of community streams going on, covering some of the other matches that are not featured here on the main stream. So there are plenty of ways that you can catch all the action in these First Strike qualifiers. As again, this is very exciting times for the Valorant community.
It most certainly is. Now, of course, they're playing for a reason, Dust. There is plenty on the line, and we will be jumping into the next graphic just to give you guys an idea as to what exactly they're playing for. So, format breakdown: 128 team tournament, all matches best of 3, single elimination bracket. As we kind of touched on just before, there will be no freebies. You have got to work your way up towards that qualifier spot. And there's going to be a lot of slips and twists and turns. The top 16 gain entry to the closed qualifiers, and that is between November 4th and 8th. So hopefully that just goes a little bit to nullifying any of those concerns or curiosities, or maybe even a little bit of doubts as to what could be coming up. So top 16 is what they're jockeying for, Dust, and a lot of teams will be vying for those positions.
Absolutely, and considering this is a single elimination bracket and there's starting with a round of 128, as you said, there could be a lot of little curveballs that get thrown in that could really mess teams up. Maybe some of your favorites don't even make it to the closed qualifier this time around, so there's definitely a lot on the line, a lot of pressure. At least it's best of 3, so you should get a chance to put your best foot forward as far as getting a map that you're comfortable with, and in case you do slip up on your first map, you still have a safety net of that map number 2 to force a third, and you know, play the game the way it's meant to be played, you know, right now, which is trying to have that competitive integrity boosted up to the max by having best of 3s. And so it should be a heck of a lot of fun, Vince. And speaking of a heck of a lot of fun, we get to kick things off, I think, in a way that everyone's going to be excited about. It's going to be the debut of 100 Thieves. Of course, not as an organization Valorant. They've had a team in the past, but that team often struggled. But this team looks like a behemoth now. They have kept Hiko, one of the OGs of the team, on board, but they have brought in a slew of new talent. They have brought Asuna and Dicey over from Immortals, often considered one of the top 5 teams in the region, had several third-place finishes, had a couple of big, you know, prize pool grabs at different times with that team, and those 2 guys are considered like the young kind of star players coming into this team. You know, just obviously lots of talent between those 2. You know, Asuna, a very powerful duelist on agents like Raze, Phoenix, and Reyna coming in, and then you have Dicey, of course, that perennial jet opper that can definitely do a lot of great things. And then they've brought in Nitro, the former in-game leader of Team Liquid, one of the best CSGO teams of all time, certainly the best North America's ever had to offer in that community. So it'll be cool to see Nitro making his debut into Valorant. And then the same could be said for Steel, a guy who has been around the block in the Counter-Strike scene for a very long time, often regarded as one of the best in-game leaders we've ever produced in our region and various versions of Counter-Strike. Obviously, he's not the main IGL for this team, but I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about about their strategy. He'll be coming in. I believe he's going to be playing a lot of Killjoy, from what I understand. That seems to be the agent he wants to go with. And then the rest is kind of up for grab, Vince. I'm not really sure what to expect from 100 Thieves. I mean, I kind of know that Asuna is kind of one of those diverse, duelist players that definitely can be a star. Hiko has had a history of playing agents like Omen and Raze, but also has played some Sova. So I'm kind of curious to see how he shifts around. From what I understand, Nitro is supposed to be coming in as their main Omen player from some of the content and interviews that they've done coming into this. But it really is a mystery to me exactly how this team will work. Steele's been talking a big game, Vince, about wanting to kind of reinvent some of the meta and bring some new ideas to the table and kind of break up some of the staleness that we've seen tactically. So we'll have to see if they can bring that out here in this qualifier against a Hot Thoughts team that I'm not that familiar with, if I'm honest, Vince.
No, same. I think there'll be a lot of people out there right now that don't know too much about this. It's a great name, but don't really know much about the players. Yeah, there was a bit of a back and forth as to who would be IGLing as well for 100 Thieves, because I heard that at one point it was supposed to be Nitro, and then Steel kind of took over a little bit, and then maybe it's gone back to Nitro. So you did touch on this yourself. Steel, no slouch when it comes to IGLing. This guy has built teams up from nothing into real powerhouse squads. And he's very good with the youth kind of players as well. So he offers a lot in this roster. Whether he's IGL or not entirely sure, but I'm sure we'll find out very shortly.
I think that's a really good point to make. I think for me, Steel, if you do not know him very well from his background in Counter-Strike, as Vince already kind of alluded to, definitely always really good at scouting new talent and helping develop younger players and teach them the fundamentals. And another big thing he's always been known for is kind of going against the grain. He's always been a guy that likes to test new things, try to develop new strategies, try to break the meta. It's something he's done throughout his entire CS career, whether it was coming up with like new flashbangs or new smoke setups. Obviously, there's certain bounds you work in within Counter-Strike, but now that's wide open in a game like Valorant, where you can test new compositions, new agents, come up with map-specific gimmicks, different things like that. I would expect this 100 Thieves team to come out with a lot of, nifty set pieces and try to see them maybe even play some new agents that don't get played that often within the North American meta. For instance, Killjoy has only recently become an option. A lot of people would just prefer playing Cypher. And I know that Steel has made it very clear that he intends to play a lot of Killjoy. So that'll be interesting to see, as it seems like an agent that you don't see that often except for maybe a couple specific maps. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what this 100 Thieves team brings to the table. Although I'm sure they're going to hide some stuff, Vince, if we're being honest. I don't think they want to show their hand too early.
No, true. I mean, there's a lot of games to go, right? So you don't want to just drop all of the tactics straight away. And against a team that not many people will know about, I'm not sure if they know anything about either. Maybe they will keep a few aces up their sleeves and see how things go. But I can get into some of the picks and the bans right now, of course, on the maps. First ban out was Split. That was from 100 Thieves. And Hot Thoughts came straight in with a Haven pick with 100 Thieves on defense. Then Ascent was picked by 100 Thieves. Hot Thoughts starting on the defense, and then Bind, of course, will be our decider if we need it, with Hot Thoughts starting on the defense again.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about map picks and bans right now just because there's only 4 maps in the pool. So you're going to be playing 75% of the pool after you come out of the pick ban phase until Icebox comes in. That adds a 5th. That'll maybe make things a little bit more dynamic as far as what gets played and what gets picked and all that. So kind of hard to really read too much into it, especially because this is a brand new 100 Thieves team. So we don't really know what maps they favor, what maps they don't, as far as map win rate and things of that nature that you could maybe point to on some of the other more established teams. And obviously same could be said for Hot Thoughts. I mean, this is, the round of 128. So you have a lot of newer teams with lesser known players coming in. So really hard to read too much into the pick ban. But again, this, at least for us as a community, we'll be able to learn a little bit about 100 Thieves, how they're setting up their roles, maybe learn a little bit about some of the compositions they like to run. But again, I would imagine you're not necessarily going to see their full playbook in this opening match. I imagine a lot of that's going to be kind of being saved for later, as a lot of teams will probably be playing a lot of standard default stuff, maybe some, basic set pieces that are common. But I would be surprised if we see anything innovative this early on in the tournament.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that as well. And, coming through onto our first map, now that we know what it's going to be with Haven, in terms of the champion picks, you kind of touched on this before, which agents would get played. You were definitely alluding to almost guaranteed Cypher and Omen. These are obviously meta picks. These are in most players' compositions and most players' wheelhouses. I feel like Haven's a map where you're probably going to see both, right? I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't see them both picked up.
I'm kind of curious about that because it seems like Steel's favoring Killjoy over Cypher from a lot of discussions he's had on different talk shows and interviews. So I'm not sure if they're going to run both or if they're going to let Cypher slip entirely and favor the Killjoy on Steel and not play Cypher at all. Really hard to say, but I mean, generally the meta on this map, definitely Omen. I mean, that is the main smoker. Hardly ever do you see smokeless compositions. And Omen seems to be the favorite over Brim right now as far as the kit that he has available outside of the smoke. So definitely Omen will get played by both teams, no doubt about that. Cypher is usually a high yield pick on this, as he is on virtually every map. So that's kind of the core two you could expect. Sova, obviously, always going to be a very popular pick outside of Split. So we're playing Haven first. Probably could see some Sova. And then from there, I mean, Jet opping has been a big thing in the past, although it's not as powerful on attacking side anymore. But still, a lot of players can make good use of Jet, even if it's not with an op in the hands. And then obviously, you could be seeing a slew of other agents, whether that be Breach, who is really becoming popular. It's always been popular in Europe and other regions, but seems to be gaining traction inside the North American region ever since the Sage Nurse happened quite some time ago. And you're also going to be seeing probably, you know, either a Raze or a Reyna or a Phoenix or some other duelist in the mix as well. Generally speaking, this map is all about just kind of controlling the periphery and denying information, right? I mean, usually for attacking side, it's all about, you know, smoking the long A cross with like a cyber cage or something and trying to pressure those A sewers. You're also going to be smoking top long C to deny intel on whether you're creeping there or not. And then it's all about information plays from that point forward with Sova drones and recons and kind of just, you know, playing off what you're comfortable with. So that's what I expect to see. But again, I am curious about this whole, you know, idea of Steel wanting to really favor the Killjoy and what that could bring to the table.
I suppose you could say, though, that Killjoy doesn't have quite the same layer of impact on a map like Haven with the 3-bomb site, you know, kind of situation where you're looking at Cypher to maybe just lock off one site so the Spike can't get through there by himself. Does Killjoy have that same level of utility as a Cypher would to feasibly pull that one out?
You know, it's kind of interesting. You know, I've been having this debate with a couple of different people in the community, like Mike's, for instance, who works on the Immortal Minds show, and a couple of other guys that I've been kind of speaking with. A lot of NA in-game leaders have been helping me learn this game, like Finesse over at Envy and Shinobi over at Cloud9. And what I've kind of been thinking is that, you know, there's some utility between the two that are very much the same, right? If you were to compare a Trapwire to an Alarm Bot, you know, kind of similar goals. But I think that Killjoy has a little bit more flexibility, Vince, is what I'll say. You have to man the camera if you're Cypher. Killjoy, you can place a turret and you can still be more flexible on your movement. So that is kind of the one thing you could point to. But sure, that cam is very, very powerful as far as gaining information all across the map.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, the wait is over. We're about to jump into our first map of the qualifiers here on Haven. 100 Thieves starting on the defense with Hot Thoughts. Hot in pursuit. Instantly, Sova straight over with the recon dart, having a quick look to see if he can find some early information for his teammates. We were asking the questions whether we'd see a Cypher. We haven't. It's going to be Killjoy.
Yeah, not surprising against Steel's been talking that up a lot. He will be anchoring that A side. We do see that a lot of Hot Thoughts here are looking to come up this long position. The Lear is out, blocking some vision on the Steel. He's trying to stay alive as best he can inside the site to buy time for rotation, but Scoob eventually finds him out with the Reyna. The Spike will go down, and now it's going to be a retake here for 100 Thieves, a man down.
Up in heaven, Asuna on the Phoenix, looking to strike, looking to pounce. No curveball available. Now the shadows being put into place by Omen, locking down the sewers. This retake, one player behind. 100 Thieves will have to congregate together and make something special happen, and here comes the push. 3 of them below heaven. Lots of damage being inflicted, and 100 Thieves are coming out ahead in this trade. Knife to the head of Polar Bear. He goes down, and now that leaves it all on Cypher, all on Ozo to try and clutch this one down. He can hear the Spike being defused, but can do nothing to stop it. And 100 Thieves hot off with a successful defuse.
Yeah, very good retake there from a man down. Again, Hot Thoughts did a good job with the initial attack. They were able to isolate Steel, get the opening pick. They did a good job denying intel by smoking top C and kind of keeping 100 Thieves guessing on where the attack was actually coming from. There was no real forward posturing on the A side of the map from 100 Thieves there. And so they had some good headway, but just couldn't quite close it off. And we have had our first questions answered. You know, indeed, Steel is playing onto the Killjoy. There is no Cypher in play here for 100 Thieves. And indeed, Nitro's picking up Omen, as kind of was being discussed. Hiko's picking up the Sova. And then Dicey and Asuna are playing the same agents that you would normally see them play on their previous team of 100 Thieves, or excuse me, Immortals rather. So that's at least some questions answered here about this new 100T lineup, as we are going to see kind of the eco push here from Hot Thoughts as they're trying to really close it on this B-bomb side early, smoke up on C Garage to deny Dicey a little bit of information.
Oh, the Spectre. Too solid from the Sunam. He gets rushed down, but Dicey has his back covered. It is another spike plant, though. Unable to deal with the insta-push through middle, but it is another successful defuse. This time a lot more comfortable. And of course, delaying the defuse
certainly.
so they can pick all the weapons they want.
At least they get that money to really bolster up their first full buy that's going to be coming up in the next round. Obviously, going to be very hard to get much progress on that site. Really, in theory, you want to get a comfortable post plant, and you want to control either A or C Link as the attacking team there, but with no firepower, they couldn't really get off the site, couldn't even really put up an initial defense against that first little swarm of that retake, but no surprise, really. Now we'll see the first full buy come out, though. It's going to be Vandals aplenty here. Again, that gun has been buffed not that long ago as far as its fire rate and such, so it does have more of an option than it did in the past, but the Phantom is still normally the favored weapon, so kind of curious that all 5 of them are using it. Very aggressive stance here from Dicey.
And that is the Jet Operator in full effect. Pick, instantly dark back. Safe as houses, Dust. And straight away, THOTS have already changed up their decision-making. They were opting to rush up C, and now they have to move over to A site. This is where Killjoy is waiting in the wings with Steel. But Ozo, with the aforementioned Vandal, going in first, taking point for his team. Now the damage coming through. Curveball does nothing. Still the entries go the way of the attackers. Ozo with a beautiful headshot. That will be another spike getting planted down. Even though some shock darts do come in, it won't be enough to fully cull and neutralize Cypher, who still stands. Good Cypher cage was implemented, locking down some of the vision. In hell again. This time it's Cypher there alone, split up towards the sewers. They need to get a move on. Don't have a bunch of utility left at their disposal, but they do have Dicey, and his ult is up, and he's looking for blood. Insta headshot onto Ozo. Here comes the smoke on top of it. He will keep going in, and he keeps landing nothing but headshots, doing so much damage in the process. The spike diffuser was killed, and still Breach is standing. Needs to come back in again, but there is the defuse underneath his nose. That looked like it should have been THOTS taking the round.
It really did look that way. They had some clean entries on the Steel and the Suna on the A side. It was good, positioning of the utility of the Killjoy, but they were still able to really just kind of burst on through. They kind of just caught Phoenix with his pants down a little bit there on that initial flash, but I think Dicey did a great job dropping the op over to his teammate after that initial pick at long C, popping his ult, and then using that to really close distance, and really not only getting the frags over at Sewer side, but causing so much of a disturbance that it allowed a diffuse to kind of just slip in under their nose. So that was a really nice recovery from 100 Thieves, despite kind of their shortcomings after that initial pick. Now he has Steel on the secondary op here at long. He has been found out, but is able to get away on what is essentially an eco here. We just have the Sheriffs out right now from THOTS.
One tap potential, certainly in effect, but maybe a little bit demoralized after feeling like at least one of these last 3 rounds probably should have come down to them. Sure, that second round, it was basically a straight-up eco rush. That last one, Dust, they'll ruin those missed mistakes, those missed opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, at least if, coming into this as not knowing much about them, we can at least say that, hey, they have an initial game plan. They have some decent takes. It's just the retakes from 100 Thieves have been very coordinated and very disciplined. And they are really able to find the gaps and create a lot of havoc, and they're thriving in that chaos and some of these, kind of rapid-fire retakes. And now THOTS finally have to kind of take a step back here with the Sheriffs. They've made some presence known over on the A side, but now they're shifting gears over and getting control of C Garage with the smoke and the Leer. Nitro hearing this, of course. What can he do to stop it?
30 seconds left.
Oh, Dicey called upon, still alive, still pouncing in with the Phantom. It's another 3K for Dicey, showing us why he's one of the main players to watch out for. And the rest is just a formality. But Dicey again, 10 and 2 already. Absolutely setting the scoreboard alight.
Yeah, he is doing fantastic work. Again, he was that kind of star jet opera from the Immortal squad that was very much placing top 3 pretty regularly in the North American scene. So definitely good to see him on board. Doing great things already. As you said, a double op still in play here. Steel, of course, a guy who is known for secondary opping in Counter-Strike, so no surprise to see him holding that, especially considering the position that he's playing for this team, locking down that A side. This time, the aggression from Dicey not going to pan out, but Steel at least strikes elsewhere to keep it even and gets a lot of intel on this A side, Vince.
Kill just before the fault line fully erupted into position. Steel, though, does counter back with a Operator frag, and there's Nitro on the garage. Polar Bear, not allowed any more movement. Tony has been doing a really solid job so far of just keeping his team in these rounds. He's been getting a ton of entry frags, just really solid with that Phantom. But they still trail by a player, Dust, and it's hard to see where they can feasibly push in.
Yeah, Steel's just doing a great job using that turret to kind of take one angle while he aggresses the other. And so he always has his backside covered, and he's able to basically play the side by himself and take so much territory. I mean, he has a complete vision on this long A cross. He knows if they come that way. He'll know if they cross over to sewers, and he'll be able to call for rotations as needed. Meanwhile, we have Hiko still kind of taking care of business on the B side of the map. Phoenix is, in fact, pushing on the C side. That's going to be Asuna, who's going to be getting a lot of intel there. There is a tripwire in place that would catch his flank, but other than that, 100 Thieves are pretty well positioned and a man up. Though the defense is spread a little bit thin until Phoenix completes this flank and is able to maybe get a pinch off on middle with Hiko. He does indeed actually fall back, and there is a C garage push coming in, so we might be able to catch this. They might not expect him to already be towards long. He's going to hide in the cubby and kind of wait it out.
Time running scarce. They needed Asuna to post up another kill. He was unsuccessful. With 10 seconds, Spike goes down. Successful plant. Hiko straight afterwards, though, a shock dart to the dome of KDS. And now, even though Omen's popped in the ultimate, it has been denied. Tony, shrouded step to a different angle of aggression on C long. But the Spike will be tapped momentarily, and there's still plenty of time left in which 100 Thieves can utilize. Killjoy in the hands of Steel, going down on it, but Hiko's not sure as to where Omen is. And now Tony shows his hand, but it is going to be Steel. Quick on the trigger with his Sheriff, and it's 5-0. But the bulk of these rounds have come off the back of spikes being planted and diffused.
Yeah, I mean, 100 Thieves has really been relying on these retakes, but I think the big thing is that it's either Dicey with these aggressive plays early, getting them initial mana advantages, or even if when that hasn't panned out, Steel's been able to do such a great job getting information and even putting pressure aggressively from defense on this A side of the map, and it's really opened up for them to make a lot of rotations and feel like they have a pretty good idea on what's going on all across the map. So they're definitely playing a pretty solid textbook defense. And it's really panned out for them, as it looks like, again, they're going to be looking to aggress on this long A position.
Right idea from Steel, just slightly off. The Cypher Cage does mask some of that vision. Goes in again, but this is a bait and switch. And as soon as laid in wait with the curveball, about to connect in some eyes, and they try and get behind that one, but here comes the aftershock. Scoob in the meanwhile, with the Vandal going in, and Ozo spotting Steel and takes his head off. Maybe this can be the first time where THOTS can convert their opportunities. In amongst all of that action, the Hunter's Fury did come out, but didn't really pick anybody off. It softened up the Sova of KDS, but that's all.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a typical start to a round, right? The cage on the long A cross, the smoke top C, and then using that to pressure sewers. The big difference was they caught a glimpse of Phoenix with that recon bolt, and they were able to push him out and get them to a 3-on-3, but they fall off the site and decide to pivot back to C, which is wide open. Smoke down on spawn. Spike will get planted, but again, these retakes, they've been so dangerous. Hiko already kind of caught a glimpse of one. Not able to finish off the frag, but does a lot of damage there.
Breach waiting with the flashpoint. The second that one of 100 Thieves show their heads, could very well get flashed into submission. Here comes the Owl drone. Hiko looking for information. Oh, that Storm not quite able to connect from Dicey. This time he will get neutralized. Nitro in hot pursuit, 1v3. Spray is good for one, tries to transition, but finally THOTS have converted a chance. They get their first round.
Yeah, again, just really well designed from start to finish. I mean, pretty standard default opening that you'll see time and time again from attacking teams on Haven. Again, I think the big difference was they were able to silence Asuna early with that recon bolt, and there really wasn't much of a trade back value there from Steel. And they were able to just kind of bounce off with an even trade, which is always going to favor attacking side when defenses have to split themselves thin, and they had to redirect to an empty C bomb site. And this time 100 Thieves not able to get the retake flowing. Dicey, though, takes a new spot. Vince, he's on top of the unit here in B. Has a chance to catch his opponents off guard with a new location.
Not pushing just yet, though. He may go unchecked. Fault line connects, but Hiko doesn't really have to worry about moving out of position. It's too early to see any of those attacking players rush him in garage, so he can stand his ground.
Yeah, same opening, but this time THOTS really focusing on mid and C side, but unfortunately for them, Nitro able to catch one before that smoke deployed. They're trying to come up through garage, but that is a great paranoia there that slows them down. A great fault line as well. They are just getting absolutely stuffed right now, trying to come into the C side, and Hiko collects a couple.
Couple kills, but the Empress is on the server, and Scoob is behind it. He is shutting down players left and right, but they still trail by one, and now Scoob is getting destroyed by Dicey's operator. Leaves it all upon KDS, but Steel will not allow that second consecutive round. They shut down the winning streak, and it's a mere 1 to Hot Thoughts.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was a self-imposed fault line. There's not even a breach on the field for Thieves. I think that was a bit of a mistake from Hot Thoughts. I think their own breach actually messed them up as they were trying to come through that C-Link. And I think that on top of, a good paranoia that came in, I believe that was from Nitro, really just got them bogged down. They could never really spill into the site the way they wanted to, and obviously 100 Thieves will take full advantage of that. So they are, again, off to a hot start here. As you can see, Hot Thoughts, not really the best equipment value coming into this round. They've never really gotten going. They've had a couple of close calls early in the game where they had some spike plants and had some chances but couldn't fend off retakes. And now, that round, they just got absolutely shut down. There's that Cage again at long A, trying to deny a little bit of information on the A side of the map, but they're just struggling to really get progress. This time it's going to be B, but again, they need to control one of these links. They can't just sit on the site, Vince.
No, certainly not. We've seen a couple of rounds prior go in the hands of 100 Thieves, but very closely. Hiko, with the Phantom that you touched on before, putting it to good use. It will be another spike plant, but we've been here so many times before. Asuna, who's had a bit of a slow start on the Phoenix, now coming in and padding those stats with a 3K. Locking down the side, all falls upon Tony. At the back of the side, no chance really to get anything done. Down he falls, 7-1 lead.
Yeah, they just didn't really have the firepower to really put the pressure they wanted. It was a good idea, though, when they put Sova through onto the A link with the Breach Flash combination to try to control that rotation. That's the types of things you need to be doing in gun rounds. Again, he was just working with the Classic, though, so there's not really much you could hope to get out of him there. But it is certainly an idea for the future with a few rounds left to go here in this half. And this is one of the maps where I feel like attacking sides usually have a bit more success compared to a map like Split or something. So to see them only find 1 so far is a little bit disheartening, though again, we know they came in as a pretty heavy underdog, considering the seeding that was going on in the bracket and how early on we are in this round of 128. But we'll see. Again, they've shown us little hints of brilliance, I should say. Let's see if they can just kind of roll it into something.
Well, they're running out of time in terms of this half, as a fault line does connect, but no follow-up damage is present.
Oh my.
Asuna already round the back. Oh my goodness, 100 Thoughts never stood a chance. It's the 3K for Asuna, who gets a quad. And that's off the back of a buy. It's not as if he just rushed them down in an eco. He just destroyed them.
I think they've been doing a pretty good job about moving Asuna around. Like, he's doubled up a couple of times with Steel over on the A side. They play aggressively through that long A position, but this time around, they smoke up top middle, and they just kind of push him forward. And that's the first time they've really pushed him that deep. They challenged mid a couple of times with Dicey coming through C Garage at one point with an operator. There's been a couple other little plays from them that kind of had that, same semblance, but that's the first time they've really taken it that far, and it really caught Hot Thoughts off guard there. Great little play from Asuna, absolutely shuts Hot Thoughts down, and now they're trying to go for something way heavier towards C Garage. The Lear comes in, they're trying to push the tempo up.
Run it back has been cropped. Oh my goodness, that utility could not have been better placed. The paranoia into all the cleanup frags, and Asuna with the run it back just to look for information has found it. It's at the cost of 3 of Hot Thoughts. They only have Ozo and their breach still standing. Dicey about to put this to bed. A flawless round.
So embarrassing.
And only a couple to go, Dust. This has been a massacre.
Yeah, I think that voice line kind of summed it all up there. Some of the voice lines in this game are quite savage, and I think that was an apt one, though. Just got kind of embarrassed there, trying to, make a little bit of something happen to C Garage. It's good use of utility to get in the garage. The problem was the counter utility of 100 Thieves, which is so on point. They kind of bit their tongue and waited, and then Nitro sends in the paranoia, and they absolutely shut down attack before it can really get rolling. That's now twice that we've seen them try to test that C link, and they could just never really make it work. This is where 100 Thieves just seem to be in full force now. They're not relying on the retakes any longer, Vince. Now they're taking the action to Hot Thoughts. They're getting more comfortable. The confidence is brewing, and they're absolutely crushing them. Look at this push now through long C. Like, they're just not letting up.
Yeah, it's a Hunter's theory to basically just keep them at bay. Meanwhile, they're pushing 2 behind the back, as you said, one of which is The jet in the hands of Dicey, who has the operator. So he can push up in a really aggressive angle. This is valuable intel to the rest of his teammates, who now can stack over towards the A site that little bit heavier. And HOTHOTS basically have no map control. They're only just starting to find their way out of middle towards the garage. But nothing's really forthcoming for them.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Dicey's holding this angle on long C is really kind of freeing up Omen to be able to assist that B when needed here, as Hiko is still the one kind of holding that down. Also, Phoenix has been allowed to drift over as well, as Steel has A on lock with this turret. Again, they can get into B vents, but what can they do with it? They need to be able to engage one of these link areas and be able to hold that, to hold off retakes, but they can't even make much progress. Hiko pitches in immediately with the quad kill with the Phantom, leaving Polar Bear all by his lonesome, and he is not long for this world, Vince. Nitro cleans him up easy there between the eyes with his own Phantom, and that's now 10-1 score to 100 Thieves. And these last few rounds, Vince, they haven't even been close. Early on, it felt like there was some hope. HOTHOTS were, you know, getting some map control. They were getting some spike plants. They were threatening 100 Thieves a little bit here and there. But now it's just full-on domination.
Yeah, it almost felt like 100 Thieves were just taking the first few rounds to fully figure out what HOTHOTS had up their sleeve.
Sure.
And now they've made the tweaks, they've made the adaptations, and the rest is history. We're seeing why they are the massive favorite to not just win this game, but go very far in these qualifiers.
That's the big hope of these roster changes, Vince. 100 Thieves, a big organization. They really sprung out for a couple of big names in Asuna and Dicey. They brought Nitro over from Counter-Strike, who is known as like a fragging in-game leader from the CSGO scene and a good mind for that game. Seems to be transferring it over nicely, at least in this match. But again, this was kind of just the first test and not even the big exam. This is just kind of a pop quiz. But so far, so good, as we are seeing the final round of the half come into fruition. Spike will get planted, but we're at even 4-on-4 for this retake.
4-on-4, Scoop goes in, gives them a chance. Empress popped again. Last time he instantly got operated by Dicey. Plenty of utility tossed towards Azuna, keeping him at bay in heaven, but he's still alive. And HOTHOTS have got to respect that angle. Nitro in with the first headshot. The Empress has fallen again. And now Azuna is looking for that spray, gets fully blinded by the paranoia, but still standing, still alive, and not for the first time. An advantage starting to work against HOTHOTS. The Blade Storm comes in again. Here comes Rolling Thunder. Dicey pushing through the Rolling Thunder into his demise, and now Nitro trying to stand tall, but Polar Bear is too big. At least it's HOTHOTS getting a second, but even then it was super close.
It was close. Dicey was maybe about a half second away from having his tailwind work for him and actually beat the timing on that popping and having an actual chance to get in there and make that retake actually work. And the 2-on-2 was very, very closely timed there. But yeah, as you said, HOTHOTS will at least fit one more in before it's all said and done. But that, I mean, on a map where I feel like attacking is a little bit easier compared to some of the others, only being able to find 2 rounds in attack, that really doesn't do you a whole lot of favor, especially if you wind up losing pistol. I feel like it could be over pretty quick at that point. We'll see what they can do, though.
Yeah, this certainly does feel like it has an air of GG about it, but maybe their defense is somewhat phenomenal. Early on, Recon Bolt connects, but has instantly been shot down by Hiko. So no intel will be forthcoming. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves pushing in through Garage, already carving out a path with the ghost of Azuna. Ozo falls, as does KDS. Perfect utility again. Just so much smokes, flashes, blinds in the eyes of HOTHOTS. And now with Reyna and Omen remaining, and a post-plant 2v5. Best of luck to them, Dust. I wish them all the best, but it's not happening, is it?
You know, Vince, you like to hold out a little bit of hope as best you can, and while Scoop, he's gotten himself one. There is some hope here, but it is the slimmest of it, isn't it? As it will be 11 rounds now to the good of 100 Thieves, coming out swinging here in this round of 128. Again, this is a best of 3, so at least one more might be played between these two teams, but so far, so good here from 100 Thieves, man. They've done everything you could have hoped for. Obviously, you still need to see them against some of the, you know, top 5 teams in the region to really get your hopes up, but you know, again, at least they're taking this match seriously. They're showing you some good coordination. You're at least learning what type of agents are probably going to get played and what type of comps they like to use. And we'll learn a little bit more about them in the next map as well. That's kind of what I took this as, like a learning opportunity. And I think maybe HOTHOTS are looking at it the same way.
Well, the other devastating aspect and stat to bring you, this was the pick of HOTHOTS. They wanted to go on Haven. And so far, it's not worked out too great for them. Killjoy in the hands of Steel, just behind the dark cover, has gone down, and now Scoop getting one, able to try and escape. I say that as he gets sprayed down in the back from the Phantom of Azuna. Paranoia tossed in, more dark cover on the site, blocking off some of these angles. Dicey perched up, waiting, anticipating the peak, and the peak comes in. Tony V is eviscerated alongside Azuna, who holds on the spray transfer, holds on for dear life, keeps himself alive, but also puts 100 Thieves to 12-2 in the lead.
Indeed, it is now map point for 100 Thieves here. They have been flawless so far in the second half, and again, only dropped around here and there in the first half. It's been a pretty clean sweep from them. Hiko, Dicey, Asuna, all fragging real heavy here. Nitro right in the mix also. Steel hasn't really been required, and he definitely did his job anchoring that A side in the first half and buying up a lot of room for his team to rotate around him. So he's definitely kind of fulfilling the role that he was expected to, and this is last chance saloon here for Hot Thoughts. They will be on the full buy, looking to challenge out in middle, but it's an even trade thus far as Steel works his way up.
Fault line connecting to the left side of B, forcing away. Breach, you will have to think twice about going back in again. Dark cover put down. Killjoy keeping it interesting on the side, keeping 2 of the remaining 4 players on Hot Thoughts over here. They cannot afford to move away. They have no idea. They have no intel. And Dicey wall-banging Polar Bear gives 100 Thieves the advantage again.
Indeed it does. There is a little bit of flank going on, though, from Ozo. He might have a chance to kind of blow this up a little bit. They're not aware of him just yet. He finds one, but that is not the best weapon for spray transferring. He has to just kind of back off, but he bought time for KDS to slot in for as well. And now it's actually all on Nitro. 1v2 clutch situation. He does have Spike in his possession. He's got a good bit of time. He knows that Cypher's in his window room. He'll be able to find that out very quickly. He probably has a pretty good idea where KDS is playing, but it's all going to come down to timing as he is putting that smoke down, but KDS has already made forward progression past it. And there it is. Nitro just a little bit slow on the trigger finger there. KDS will keep his team afloat, at least for now, but they still have a long road to travel to threaten an overtime. But hey, one step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Step by step, brick by brick. They weren't expected to win, so Hot Thoughts now playing for a bit of pride.
Sure.
A bit of a chance to show the world what they're capable of doing. KDS had a very slow start, but he did pick up a kill or 2 in that last round, so he's up to 3 now, which is good to see. But it's been Dicey that's been one of the main players, and Hiko's really stood up as well on 17 frags.
Yeah, we've seen pretty much a well-oiled machine when it comes to 100 Thieves. Everyone's been popping off when they've needed to. So we do see them setting up a lot of their players in C-Cubby, now using that ult to pop their way into the site. Great Paranoia takes Polar Bear off the board with the help of Asuna's Phantom. That's complete C-side control and a spike plant now for 100 Thieves.
Run it back successful, and now Azuna can rejoin the troops. Ozo waiting for the cavalry to arrive. What could be the final play of our Haven in our first best of 3. Steel, Sheriff round the corner, taking the head of Tony V off instantly, and keeping pressure and presence down on Garage and middle. This forces KDS's hand to go through. Hunter's Flurry is good enough for 1, but now it's going to be a couple more running into the blender. And it's 100 Thieves coming out ahead, 13-3.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I expected anything different than what we saw there without really knowing much about Hot Thoughts. You knew that there was some proven talent on the 100 Thieves squad. The only real question would be, how well is their practice gone? How good is their coordination? You know, is the chemistry being built up nicely? And the other questions were, how does Hiko work around these new players coming in? I mean, obviously, he was a guy that was known to play some of the agents that Asuna and Dicey were coming to play, particularly Asuna, as they shared Raze as kind of a common agent. But we've seen, you know, Hiko here be able to go over to the Sova, you know, allow Asuna to play the agent that he's comfortable with. He got a slow start there, but then got rolling and did a great job. We saw the Killjoy out of Steel as was being kind of hinted at, and some of the different interviews and such that have been going on in the community. So again, I feel like, at least for me as kind of an analyst in this scene, I got to learn a little bit about 100 Thieves kind of mindset on how they want to approach at least Haven, right? Now, granted, they didn't really have to turn the pages on the playbook, Vince. They were able to just kind of play a stout defense and then, you know, just play out a pretty standard attack. Didn't really see anything special, but it's not required yet. And I'm sure even if they have it, they don't want to show it just yet, which is kind of one of the other talking points. But all in all, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we discussed this before, that the later it gets into the qualifiers, when they start playing against something like the NRGs and teams of that stature, maybe then we start to see some of the really intricate, spicy strats come into play. But I would say that's kind of par for the course of what I expected. I think, honestly, Hot Thoughts could probably come away from this thinking they could have won another 3 or 4 rounds. Especially on that first half. They had a lot of post plants, a lot of spikes that were getting diffused in the last few seconds and amongst smokes, and it came down to like 2v2s, and it's just where the individual skill of 100 Thieves was slightly higher, but it's not like they were completely bodied.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on there were definitely some opportunities, but it did feel like once 100 Thieves started hitting the gas pedal, those rounds started coming a lot easier. It wasn't up to retakes anymore. It was just straight up, dominating the whole map, being able to push freely through the peripheries of the map without really any trouble. And then they started winning those rounds really clean, like only losing 1 or 2 players in the process. So it did feel like a bit of it, though, was also just 100 Thieves kind of easing into the game rather than taking the full plunge right off the rip. So a little bit of give and take on that. But at the end of the day, we got the dominant game that we were kind of expecting.
Yep, so that's going to do it from map number 1, ladies and gents. Stay tuned. After this break, we'll be getting straight back into it with our second map of our first best of 3.